Okay, so get this. The Central Park Five, they just filed a lawsuit against former President Donald Trump. And it's causing like a serious uproar. You guys probably remember the case, right? Five teenagers wrongly convicted back in 1989 for that brutal attack on a jogger in Central Park. DNA evidence proved their innocence years later, but it's like those scars from that injustice, they just don't go away. And this lawsuit, it isn't about, rehashing the past. It's about what Trump's saying now about the case and why it matters so much, especially now with the 2024 election just weeks away. So we're going to unpack the basis of this lawsuit, like explore its potential impact, and try to wrap our heads around why it's making headlines at this very moment.
What's fascinating to me is how this lawsuit, it goes beyond just a legal battle. It's this clash of law, politics, and these like really deeply personal stories.
Exactly. To start off, this whole lawsuit hinges on some very specific comments Trump made during that kind of explosive debate with Vice President Kamala Harris back in September.
Right, right. The lawsuit alleges that Trump's statements during that debate were false and defamatory. He claimed the Central Park Five confessed to the crimes and even kind of implied they badly hurt a person, killed a person. These claims are like the core of the lawsuit.
Wait, hold up. Those statements, they completely contradict what we know about the case, right?
Absolutely. The lawsuit emphasizes that those five men, they always maintained they were innocent, never pleaded guilty, and really importantly, no one was killed in the Central Park attack. To win a defamation case, the Central Park Five, they would have to prove that what Trump said was not only false, but that he said it knowing it was false or with, like, a reckless disregard for the truth. It's a tough legal standard to meet, but the lawsuit argues that Trump's history with the case. It shows this pattern of disregarding their innocence.
So you're saying there's more to this than just, like, something he said in the heat of the moment?
Way more. To understand how serious these allegations are, we have to go back to 1989. When this case first captivated New York City, Trump was already a major figure then, known for being outspoken and knowing how to work the media.
Oh, yeah. Trump never shied away from the spotlight.
Exactly. And he didn't just comment on the Central Park Five case. He put himself right in the middle of it. Before those five teenagers even went to trial, Trump took out full-page ads in 4 New York City newspapers, demanding the death penalty for them. Imagine what those ads did to public opinion, and to those 5 young men facing incredibly serious charges.
Wow. Demanding the death penalty before a trial. That's intense. And this ad, that's a key piece of evidence in the lawsuit now.
It is. The lawyers for the Central Park Five included it to emphasize how long Trump has held this stance and how publicly he's done it, even years after they were exonerated. It's meant to show this pattern of ignoring their innocence, and it's still happening.
And this is where things get really interesting, because Trump has defended those 1989 ads and his comments about the case over and over. Just as recently as 2016, he said that the Central Park Five had admitted they were guilty. And we know that's completely false. It seems to connect with Trump's tough on crime image, which has been a consistent theme throughout his career.
That's a crucial point. This lawsuit isn't happening in isolation. It's unfolding within the context of Trump's political career and his use of law and order rhetoric to appeal to a specific group of voters.
Which brings us to why this is making so many waves right now in the middle of the 2024 election.
Okay, yeah, I see that. So how does this 35-year-old case, how does it suddenly become like this huge election issue?
Well, take a look at Trump's campaign strategy right now. That same tough on crime talk, it's front and center. And it really seems to connect with some voters, those who may not fully know about the Central Park Five's exoneration or, all the details of the case.
So some voters might just take what Trump's saying at face value without realizing the facts are different. That's definitely possible. And the timing of this lawsuit is just weeks before the election. You can't ignore that. It makes you wonder if the lawsuit itself is, well, a political move.
Wait, are you saying this is all about political strategy then?
I wouldn't say that necessarily, but the timing does make things more complicated. It's worth pointing out the Trump campaign has already called the lawsuit election interference. It really blurs the line between the legal stuff and the political side of this.
So we have a former president being sued for things he said decades ago. And now those same statements might affect his current campaign. It's like this case represents this bigger debate we're having about race, justice, and how powerful words can be.
Exactly. This lawsuit isn't just a legal fight. It shines a light on how divided we are and how much this case still affects us. And we can't forget how all of this has impacted the 5 men at the center of it.
It's true, it's easy to get lost in the legal arguments and the politics. But these are real people whose lives were changed forever. That Netflix series, When They See Us, it really showed us that human side, didn't it?
Absolutely. When They See Us was powerful, very moving. It showed what the Central Park Five went through, the accusations, those forced confessions, the years they were wrongly in prison, and even the struggles they faced after being exonerated.
It was like a punch to the gut, you know? It made
Yeah.
you see the consequences of a messed up justice system and the trauma of being wrongly convicted. And you can't ignore the racial dynamics in the case originally and how it's talked about even today.
You've got a point there. This case, right from the start, it's been tied up with issues of race and class. Those five teenagers, all black or Latino, immediately labeled as dangerous criminals by some media and public figures.
It just shows that even when someone's innocence is proven, the accusations and the biases, they can stick around for years. So where do we even begin to untangle all of this?
That's the question, isn't it? This lawsuit, regardless of what the court decides, it forces us to think about justice, accountability, and how media and political talk shape our views.
Yeah, it really feels like this whole thing, regardless of what happens in court, it raises these huge questions we got to ask ourselves.
You're right. It forces us to look at, the core issues about racial justice, how powerful political talk can be, and how the stories we hear through the media, through campaigns, how those stories shape what we believe about these complex situations.
It's like those initial stories, especially about crime and race, they stick so hard. It's almost impossible to get rid of them, even when the facts say different. It makes you think, how do we, everyday people, how do we make sense of all this information, especially during an election?
That's a challenge, right? To be engaged citizens. We can't just listen to stuff passively. We have to be active, question things, look at different sides. And that's even more important when it's something as emotional as this. You might be wondering, how does this affect me? Well, this case is a good reminder to be careful about those simple stories that are always in the news and in politics.
So, don't just believe everything you hear. You're saying dig deeper, look for the details, and understand the bigger picture.
Exactly. And remember, we all have our own biases that affect how we see things. This case, with all its history, legal stuff, and politics, it shows how important critical thinking is.
This deep dive has really given us a lot to think about. It's a reminder that behind every headline, every court case, there are real people's stories and these deep societal issues.
It has been a really interesting conversation. And to our listener, I would say keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep coming to your own conclusions. In a time where we're bombarded with information, that's what it means to be an engaged and responsible citizen.